A slam dunk, also donkey dunk shot, is a type of basketball shot that is performed when a player jumps in the air, controls the ball above the horizontal plane of the rim, and scores by putting the ball directly through the basket with one or both hands. This is considered a normal field goal attempt. If successful, it is worth 2 points. Such a shot was known as a dunk shot until the term slam dunk was coined by former Los Angeles Lakers announcer Chick Hearn. The slam dunk is the most efficient basketball shot. Moreover, it is a crowd pleaser. Thus, the maneuver is often extracted from the basketball game and showcased in slam dunk contests. Perhaps the most popular is the NBA Slam Dunk Contest held during the annual NBA All-Star Weekend. The seminal incarnation of the NBA Slam Dunk Contest was held during the halftime of the 1976 American Basketball Association All-Star Game. Dunking was banned in the NCAA from 1967 to 1976. Many people have attributed this to the dominance of the then college phenomenon Luau-Sindor. The no-dunking rule is sometimes referred to as the Luau-Sindor rule. The phrase slam dunk has since entered popular usage in American English, meaning a sure thing, an action with a guaranteed outcome, or a similarly impressive achievement. In the same way that the baseball-inspired phrases "step up to the plate" or "he hit it out of the park" were more commonly used in previous years. Introduction. During the 1940s and 50s, 7-foot center and Olympic gold medalist Bob Kurland was dunking regularly during games. Yet defenders viewed the execution of a slam dunk as a personal affront that deserved retribution. Thus defenders often intimidated offensive players and thwarted the move. Such Sanders, a career Boston Celtic from 1960 to 1973, said, "In the old days, would run under you when you were in the air, trying to take people out of games so they couldn't play. It was an unwritten rule." Still, by the late 1950s and early 60s, players such as Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain had incorporated the move into their offensive arsenal. The dunk became a fan favorite, as offensive players began to aggressively intimidate defenders with the threat of vicious slams. Through the 1970s, the slam dunk was standard fare. David Thompson, Julius Erving, Darryl Dawkins, and others wowed crowds with high-flying moves. Dunk types. Dunk types reflect the various motions performed on the way to the basket. They start with the basic one or two-hand forward-facing dunk and go on through various levels of athleticism and intricacy. Discrete dunk types can be modified by appending other moves. For example, a player who passes the ball off the backboard, catches it in the air, and executes a double pump dunk would be said to have completed a self-pass off the backboard. Double pump. Double pump. At the onset of the jump, the ball is controlled by either one or both hands, and once in the air is typically brought to chest level. The player will then quickly thrust the ball downwards and fully extend their arms, bringing the ball below the waist. Finally, the ball is brought above the head and dunked with one or both hands, and the double pump appears as one fluid motion. As a demonstration of athletic prowess, the ball may be held in the below-the-waist position for milliseconds longer, thus showcasing the player's hang time. Whether the result of a 180 degrees spin or body angle at takeoff, the double pump is generally performed with the player's back toward the rim. While this orientation is rather conducive to the double pump motion, Spud Webb was known to perform the dunk while facing the basket. Additionally, Kenny "Sky" Walker, Tracy McGrady, in the 1989 and 2000 NBA contests, respectively, and others, have performed 360 degrees variation of the double pump. Circa 2007, independent slam dunker T-Dub performed the double pump with a 540-degree spin, which he concluded by hanging on the rim tomahawk due to the undemanding body mechanics involved in execution. The tomahawk is employed by players of all sizes and jumping abilities, because of the ball security provided by the use of both hands. The tomahawk is a staple of game situations, frequently employed in alley-oops and in offense rebound put-back dunks. Additionally, the two-hand finish can exert tremendous force on the basket. Darryl Dawkins twice shattered NBA backboards with tomahawk dunks. In one common variation, a 360-degree spin may be completed prior to or simultaneously with the tomahawk. Circa 2009, independent slam dunker Troy McRae pioneered an especially complex variant of the dunk. Once the tomahawk motion is complete, instead of slamming the ball in the rim, a windmill dunk is then performed. Windmill. Before takeoff, or at the onset of the jump, the ball is brought to the abdomen, and then the windmill motion is started by moving the ball below the waist according to the length of the player's fully extended arm. Then, following the rotation of the outstretched arm, the ball is moved in a circular motion, typically moving from the front towards the back, and then slammed through the rim. Although, due to momentum, many players are unable to palm the ball through the entire windmill motion, the dunk is often completed with one hand, as centripetal force allows the player to guide the ball with only the dunking hand. In some instances, sticky resins or powders may be applied to the palm. These are thought to improve grip and prevent loss of possession amongst players. Subtle variations in the direction of the windmill depend on bodily orientation at takeoff and also jumping style in relation to dominant hand. There are a number of variations on the windmill, the most common being the aforementioned one or two-hand variants. In these cases, the windmill motion may be performed with the previously discussed one-arm technique and finish with one or two hands, or the player may control the ball with two hands, with both arms performing the windmill motion, finishing with one or both hands. Additionally, the ball may be cuffed between the hand and the forearm, generally with the dominant hand. The cuff technique provides better ball security, allowing for a faster windmill motion and increased force exerted on the basket at finish, with either one or both hands. Using the cuffing method, players are also afforded the opportunity of performing the windmill motion towards the front, a technique exploited by French athlete Kadou Ziani when he pioneered his trademark double windmill. Occasionally in the game setting, the windmill is performed via alley-oop but is rarely seen in offense rebound putback dunks due to the air time required. Dominique Wilkins popularized powerful windmills in games as well as in contests, including two-handed, self-pass, 360 degrees rim hang, and combined variants thereof, under the leg. For one-footed jumpers, the ball is generally transferred to the non-dominant hand just before or upon takeoff. For two-footers, this transfer is often delayed for milliseconds as both hands control the ball to prevent dropping it. Once airborne, the dunker generally transfers the ball from non-dominant to dominant hand beneath a raised leg. Finally, the ball is brought upwards by the dominant hand and slammed through the rim. The under-the-leg dunk was popularized by Isaiah Ryder in the 1994 NBA Slam Dunk Contest, so much so that the dunk is often colloquially referred to as a Ryder dunk, notwithstanding Orlando Woolridge's own such dunk in the NBA contest a decade earlier. Since then, the under-the-leg has been attempted in the NBA contest by a number of participants, and has been a staple of other contests as well. Its difficulty, due to the required hand-eye coordination, flexibility, and hang time, keeps it generally reserved for exhibitions and contests, not competitive games. Ricky Davis has managed to complete the dunk in an NBA game, but both he and Josh Smith have botched at least one in-game attempt as well, because of the possible combinations of starting and finishing hands and raised legs. There are many variations on the basic under-the-legs dunk, more so than any other. For example, in a 1997 French dunk contest, Dali Tamala leapt with his right leg while controlling the ball with his left hand, and once airborne he transferred the ball from his left hand underneath his right leg to his right hand before completing the dunk. NBA star Jason Richardson has also pioneered several notable variations of the between the legs, including a lob pass to himself and a pass off of the backboard to himself. Independent athlete Shane Slam Wise introduced a cuffed cradle of the ball prior to initiating the under-the-leg transfer and finishing with two hands, while a number of players have finished the dunk using one or two hands with the backs to the rim. Perhaps the most renowned variant of the dunk is the combination with a 360 degrees, or simply stated, a 360 between the legs. Due to the athleticism and hang time required, the dunk is a crowd favorite and is heralded by players as the preeminent of all dunks. Elbow hang. The player approaches the goal and leaps as they would for a generic dunk. Instead of simply dunking the ball with one or two hands, the player allows the forearm to pass through the basket, hooking their elbow pit on the rim before hanging for a short period of time. Although the dunk was introduced by Vince Carter in the 2000 NBA Slam Dunk Contest, Kobe Bryant was filmed performing the dunk 2 years earlier at an exhibition in the Philippines. Colloquially, the dunk has a variety of names, including honey dip, cookie jar, and elbow hook. In the 2011 NBA contest, L.A. Clippers power forward Blake Griffin completed a self-pass off of the backboard prior to elbow hanging on the rim. A number of other variants of the elbow hang have been executed, including a lob self-pass, hanging by the armpit, a windmill, and over a person. Most notable are two variations which as of July 2012 have yet to be duplicated. In 2008, Canadian athlete Justin Darlington introduced an iteration aptly entitled a double elbow hang, in which the player inserts both forearms through the rim and subsequently hangs on both elbows pits. Circa 2009, French athlete Guy Dupuis demonstrated the ability to perform a between-the-legs elbow hang. However, Guy opted not to hang on the rim by his elbow, likely because the downward moment could have resulted in injury. Dunk modifiers discussed in this module are activities which, when applied, modify a given dunk type. Modifier activities occur prior to leaping or while airborne. Modifiers performed prior to leaping pertain to the manner of approach, angle of approach, distance of leap from the basket, the addition of a pass, or some combination thereof. Modifiers performed while airborne pertain to bodily rotation, obstruction of own vision, other bodily movements superfluous of dunk type, or some combination thereof. Dunk types can also be modified with obstructions which influence activities both prior to leaping and while airborne. Modifiers are inherent to in-game dunking and conduce towards successful dunking as a means to score points. Modifiers are important in the grading of slam dunk contests because dunk types are made more difficult when modified. For taxonomic purposes, it is an important distinction distinction, but the modifiers discussed below are often considered dunk types in common parlance. This misconception is perhaps attributable to the modifier being the most salient component of the dunk from the perspective of the observer. However, each dunk modifier requires a dunk type to be a successful dunk, albeit the most basic dunk type. Alley-oop. An alley-oop dunk, as it is colloquially known, is performed when a pass is caught in the air and then dunked. The application of an alley-oop to a slam dunk occurs in both games and contests. In games, when only fractions of a second remain on the game shot clock, an alley-oop may be attempted on inbound pass because neither clock resumes counting down until an inbounds player touches the ball. The images to the right depict an interval spanning 1/5 of a second. Baseline dunk. The baseline dunk is an approach modifier of any dunk type in which the player approaches the basket along the court boundary which runs parallel with the backboard. In the game setting, the dunk often comes as the result of a pass, creating an assist opportunity for a teammate. In the contest, the baseline approach may be used as a means of convenience, facilitating a particular dunk type or to increase the difficulty of a dunk type in hopes of meriting higher scores. From a distance. This is a dunk where the player takes off from a distance which is significantly further away from the basket than is considered typical. The free throw line is most commonly constituted as the takeoff point, an effect likely attributed to the easily observable span between the line and the basket in the view of the TV audience. In order to achieve the hang time and altitude necessary, players will generally leap from 1 foot to maximize the momentum generated from the half-court running start often required to complete the dunk. A cornerstone of dunk contests, dunks from a distance are also performed in games, most often on the fast break. Free throw line. In the 1950s, Jim Pollard and Wilt Chamberlain had both dunked from the free throw line, 15 feet from the basket. Chamberlain was able to dunk from the free throw line without a running start, beginning his forward movement from within the top half of the free throw circle. This was the catalyst for the 1956 NCAA rule change, which requires that a shooter maintain both feet behind the line during a free throw attempt. In the 1976 ABBA Slam Dunk Contest, Julius Erving dunked after leaping from the free throw line, with his heel on the line, and has since been credited with introducing the free throw line dunk to the general public. In the 1988 NBA Slam Dunk Contest, Michael Jordan dunked from the free throw line, in the same manner as Julius Erving, but parted his legs, making his dunk more revolutionary than Erving's. In the 2011 NBA Sprite Slam Dunk Contest, Serge Ibaka dunked from behind the free throw line, getting a score of 45 for the dunk, and finishing fourth. In the 2016 NBA Slam Dunk Contest, Zach LaVine dunked from the free throw line on 3 occasions, one hand, windmill, and between the legs. All of the dunks received a score of 50 for the dunk and won the dunk contest. Other instances of dunks from a distance abound. James White in the 2006 NCAA Slam Dunk Contest successfully performed tomahawk and windmill variations of the foul line dunk, though he was unable to complete a between the legs from the foul line at that contest. He has been known to execute it on other occasions. In the 2008 NBA Slam Dunk Contest, Jamario Moon leaped from the foul line, then, using his non-dominant hand, caught and dunked a bounce pass from teammate Jason Carpono. Independent 6 feet 2 inches. North American athlete Eric Bishop introduced a dunk entitled the paint job. The title is in reference to the key on a basketball court, often known as paint in common parlance. Approaching along the baseline with a running dribble, Bishop jumped with 1 foot at the border of the key. dunked with one hand while gliding over the key and landed just beyond the border on the side opposite his takeoff of 16-foot flight. Obstructions: the player approaches the basket and obstruction, and then leaps. During flight, some portion of the player's body is elevated above the obstruction. This may entail raising the legs or some portion thereof in inertis or over the obstruction. In other instances, the trunk moves over an obstruction as the legs pass around it. Common obstructions include motor vehicles, crouched, seated, a standing person, ball rack, or other available objects. Perhaps the most popular obstruction-modified dunk is the double-up, aptly eponymous of its pioneer, T-Dub, an American dunker hailing from Minnesota. The double-up starts with a person standing before the basket, holding the ball above the head. The dunker approaches and leaps as though the groin would soar above, just above the head and the legs around the stationary person. Just prior to clearing the person, the dunker will assume control of the ball with one or both hands, guide it under a raised leg, transferring it to the appropriate hand, clearing the ball holder, raising the ball above the horizontal plane of the rim, and finally guiding it downward through the basket. While the double-up mimics a between-the-legs dunk, Kenny Dobbs and Justin Darlington have both performed an under-both-legs variant. Other obstruction dunks are worth noting. Hanif Munir performed a double-up, dunking with his right hand and then caught and dunked a second ball with his left hand, a yet-to-be-duplicated dunk pioneered by Jordan Kilgannon on a lower, non-regulation rim. Jordan Kilgannon, a Canadian athlete, approached from the baseline, a person standing, holding the ball above the head. Kilgannon leaped, controlled the ball in front of his torso and raised it above the horizontal plane of the rim before bringing the ball downward into the hoop and hooking both elbows on and hanging from the rim. Notable dunks: Wilt Chamberlain was known to have dunked on an experimental 12-foot basket set up by Fog Allen at the University of Kansas in the 1950s. Michael Wilson, a former Harlem Globetrotter and University of Memphis basketball player, matched this feat on April 1, 2000, albeit with an alley-oop. Vince Carter dunked while leaping over 7'2" French center Frédéric Weiss in the 2000 Summer Olympics. The French media dubbed it Le Dunk de la Mort, the dunk of death. At least one player has performed a 720-degree dunk. Torian Fontenette, also known as Air Up There, during a street ball game. In the NBA Slam Dunk Contest, several notable and remarkable dunks have been performed by participants in the annual NBA Slam Dunk Contest. Spud Webb at 5'7" and defeated 6'8" in Dominique Wilkins in the 1986 contest. Michael Jordan popularized a dunk referred to by some fans as the Leaner. This dunk was called because Jordan's body was not perpendicular to the ground while performing the dunk. TNT viewers rated it the best dunk of all time over Vince Carter's between-the-legs slam. In the 2000 NBA Slam Dunk Contest, Carter used an elbow hang along with his reverse 360 windmill dunk and between-the-legs dunk. When performed, much of the audience was speechless, including the judges, because none had seen these types of dunks before. In the 2008 Sprite Rising Stars Slam Dunk Contest, Dwight Howard performed the Superman dunk. He donned a Superman outfit as Orlando Magic guard Jameer Nelson tied a cape around his shoulders. Nelson alley-ooped the basketball as Howard jumped from within the key side of the free throw circle line, caught the ball, and threw it through the rim. This dunk is somewhat controversial, as his hand was not over as well as on a vertical plane to the rim. Some insist that it should in fact be considered a dunk because the ball was thrust downward into the basket, meeting the basic definition of the dunk. During the 2009 NBA dunk contest, Howard had a separate goal brought onto the court, and the rim was noticeably significantly higher than a standard goal. Howard, after going into a 1950s-era telephone booth and again fashioning the Superman attire, caught a pass from Nelson and easily completed a two-handed dunk on the higher goal. While this was not performed for record-setting purposes, the dunk received a perfect score and a warm response from the crowd, in part because of its theatrics. Also in this contest, 5 feet 9 inches guard Nate Robinson wore a green New York Knicks jersey and green sneakers to represent Kryptonite, playing on Howard's Superman theme. He used a green Kryptonite ball and jumped over the 6 feet 11 inches Howard prior to dunking. This dunk and the theatrics could have won the competition for Robinson, who was voted the winner by the NBA fans. Robinson then thanked Howard for graciously allowing him to dunk over him, asking the crowd to also give Howard a round of applause. JaVale McGee currently holds the world record for most basketball dunks in a single jump. 3. While competing in the 2011 NBA Sprite Slam Dunk Contest, McGee jumped with 2 balls in his possession and dunked each prior to receiving and slamming an alley-oop pass from then teammate John Wall. Broken backboards. In the past, it has been possible for players to dunk a basketball and pull the rim down so hard that the glass backboard shatters, either around the rim itself or, at times, shattering the entire backboard, or the entire goal. Standard fails. Reinforced backboards and breakaway rims have minimized this at the college and professional levels, but it still happens at low levels. All-star power forward Gus Johnson of the Baltimore Bullets was the first of the famous backboard breakers in the NBA, shattering 3 during his career in the 1960s and early 1970s. Darryl Dawkins of the Philadelphia 76ers was also notorious for 2 glass-shattering dunks in 1979, resulting in the league threatening to fine him, and eventually installing breakaway rims, twice in his rookie season during games. Center Shaquille O'Neal dunked so hard that he broke the hydraulic support of one goal standard and broke the welds holding up another goal standard, causing the basket to break off and fall to the floor, although in neither case did the glass break. This resulted in reinforced backboard supports as well. During that same season, New Jersey's Chris Morris shattered a backboard in a game against the Chicago Bulls. The NBA has made shattering the backboard a technical foul, although it will not count towards a player's count of 7 that can draw a suspension, or 2 towards ejection from a game, and it counts towards a player's count of 6 personal fouls. This has assisted in deterring this action, as it can cost the team points. In the ABA, Charlie Hentz broke 2 backboards in the same game on November 6, 1970, resulting in the game being called. In the NCAA, Jerome Lane shattered a backboard while playing for Pitt in a 1988 regular season game against Providence, and Darvin Ham did the same while playing for Texas Tech in a tournament game against North Carolina in 1996. The Premier Basketball League has had 2 slam dunks that have resulted in broken backboards. Both came consecutively in the 2008 and 2009 PBL Finals, and both were achieved by Sammy Monroe of the Rochester Razor Sharks.